What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Cultivation 3D Studio. In this episode, I'm going to show you guys how I did the Black Ranger helmet. Went ahead and finished this one. Super nice, super clean. Now, I did try some new methods out, which I'm probably going to be doing for the remainder of the Ranger helmets. So stay tuned for all the information on that. Let's hop right into it. All right, guys, first things first, we went ahead and knocked this print out from DO3D. And like with all DO3D's prints, for some reason they come in multiple pieces, which is awesome. I love that. Now, I did have a bunch of difficulty printing this. As far as positioning it on my build plate, it just kept failing. But at the end of the day, it ended up coming out after the third try, pretty decent. So the new method that I was talking to you guys about was this method here. It's the resin smoothing method. Yeah, so essentially what we're going to do is get rid of these layer lines here. So all the layer lines that came out the print, for some reason they didn't print as smooth as I would like them. So after scouring the internet, I found a method that actually works fairly well for these. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a standard bottle of resin. You can get the clear, you can get color. Honestly, it doesn't matter since you're going to paint it later on. You're going to need a little cup, some gloves. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply super thin coats. So one coat at a time, very thin, be as thin as possible just to get that first layer in there. So what's going to happen with the resin is essentially it fills in these layer lines for you, and then you cure it about 2 or 3 times, and then you have a smooth piece. And you really don't need to use that much. For this, I hardly used a fraction of the resin that I got. You're probably going to use even less than what I poured here. I think I had to end up like putting some back in the bottle anyway, so you really don't need that much. You're going to be applying super thin coats, so no need to worry about having enough because you have more than enough. Now, to apply it, I just used a regular standard throwaway brush. Pretty thick. What I'm going to do here is just agitate it a little bit just to mix up, get all the bubbles out as much as I can at least. Now, if you want, you don't have to necessarily use a paintbrush. If you don't have a paintbrush, you can still use a sponge brush if you have that on hand. Those are super easy to get. You can go to Hobby Lobby, honestly, and just get like a pack of like 20 for like $5. Now, as I said, you don't need that much. Like literally just dab it in there, get get the tip wet, pause, and just spread it around. So what's gonna happen is the resin for 3D printing is super runny. So you're not gonna have an issue spreading it around. You're gonna want to get one good top coat on there and then throw it into any type of UV light, black light, whatever helps, honestly, to cure it. I myself bought a cure box with a black light in it, so that helped. Now you're gonna want to do this at least 3 times, and each time you throw it into the cure, it's going to sit for like 3 minutes. Now, that cuts back so much time and hassle from trying to actually sand everything down. So here is the cure box that I have. Essentially, what you just want to throw it in there. And the cure box that I got comes with a little timer for the UV light. So just throw it in there, and the timer is for literally 3 minutes. After that 3 minutes done, I rinse and repeat that again for another 3 coats. Now, what you're going to notice after each and every cure is the resin leaves a little bit of a tacky kind of coat on there, but easy fix. What you're going to get is just a paper towel and some isopropyl alcohol and rub it down real quick, and then rinse and repeat, start over with the coat again. And boom, it should look just like this. You can already tell it's getting pretty smooth. Now I just rinse and repeat that until you have your consistency or what you want it to look like. I'm just going to apply it to all the other pieces here as well. Now, after about 10 minutes of rinsing and repeating this method, you're going to notice your piece gets a lot smoother. So the next part is you're just going to have to sand it one time. And that is amazing to me. Sanding it one time with 220 saves so much time than having to do it 3 times with the 80, the 120, and then having to wet sand it, and then having to do it again with the 220. Yeah, it just saves so much time. Now you're still gonna have to get into the nooks and crannies, but for the most part, it's really just a one time, and it's honestly a lifesaver. I was beating myself up trying to figure out how to do this faster or how to do it even better. And the resin just makes everything a lot smoother. Now here I am sanding down the back plate of it. I've already done 3 layers of the resin. So make sure, again, with every video, do as I say and not as I do. Make sure you have proper protective equipment on because this stuff does let off some fumes when you're sanding it. And within a fraction of the time, you're already layering down your first filler primer coat on this just to make sure you have all the nooks and crannies and making sure it's perfectly smooth. Now, if you do the first part correctly, you're going to notice how incredibly smooth and satisfying it is just to layer one coat of the filler primer and you're done. So honestly, I'm going to be using this method moving forward. Now, if you want to go ahead and go the extra mile and do some wet sanding like me, I went ahead and did this with 400 grit. Very, very light pressure, nothing too crazy. Now, I know I said that this would save you time, but here I am spending more time sanding. But it's an extra 10 minutes to honestly sand all the bits and pieces and then even the front and the back of the helmet. So an extra 10 minutes honestly went a really long way. After everything's sanded down, we're going to go ahead and jump in with the 2K aluminum from Rust-Oleum. It's the metallic paint that I use on every single one of the Ranger helmets. You're going to want to go for at least 2 or 3 coats, very light coats, but for some reason this Rust-Oleum aluminum metallic paint, that's a mouthful. It definitely layers down or it sprays down so nicely the first time around. I honestly thought I needed at least 1 coat, but I went ahead and did 2 coats for this one, and I went ahead and also did it for all the other pieces that are going to be metallic. So the tusks for this part, you'll definitely see how nice and smooth it layers down. Look at that. The coverage is amazing on these. So make sure you at least get 2 coats on there just to make sure you're getting everything nice and covered. Now, for the eyes of the helmet, I used another method that I'm not too familiar with, which was an airbrush. Um, Honestly, using an airbrush has become my new favorite thing just because it lays down so smooth. It's a little finicky at first, mind you, because if this is your first time using an airbrush, definitely figure out how to use it before you start using it because you will get frustrated. But once you get the hang of it, this is going to be one of the strongest pieces in your paint arsenal. There's never going to be a run in your life. Look how smooth this came out. Now, mind you, I did go a little heavy handed and still nothing ran. And it also dried extremely fast. So I honestly had no idea how fast it would dry, but airbrushing is the go to. Now, as in every video that I've been doing for the helmets, I use the flat white primer from Rust-Oleum. It layers down nicely. I did about 3 coats of this just to make sure I got everything nice and covered. And we're on to our first layer of paint. I used the high gloss black from Rust-Oleum. Just make sure you get nice thin coats. I did about 3 or 4 coats on this one. Here's the first coat. Now, believe it or not, I only had to do 2 coats of this high gloss black just because it covers so nicely. Look at this second coat. I honestly didn't need to touch it anymore. So I let it dry for a couple of hours. And then I did another thing that's a little different is I used a pearlescent clear coat. And when I tell you this thing came out amazing, I'm probably going to use a pearlescent clear coat for another Ranger. But man, this thing came out so clean. Now I'm not sure why I didn't record this part, but I airbrushed the lines on and used the 3M masking tape. And there you have it. The front of the helmet, all the pieces are connected. Everything's looking smooth. The only thing that's needed to be done is to put the visor on. And if you guys haven't noticed already, there is a video on visors specifically. Here is the cutout of the visor. Simple cutout. I went ahead and did one that's exactly the same size, and this is how it came out. Now, as I said in the beginning of the video, I am going to be using some of those methods moving forward for the rest of the helmets. Now, I'm probably only going to be doing the resin smoothing for the smaller pieces like the mouth and the other bits and pieces. And then I'm going to be transitioning from the aerosol spray paint can to an air gun just to have a more high quality finish. But thanks again for sticking around to the end of this video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below. And thank you guys again for sticking up with this series. I'll be working on the Red Ranger next.